I found out I was seated next to Sloane Whitfield at her sister's wedding at 6:47 on a Saturday evening when the escort card in my hand said table 4, seat 2, and Sloane was already standing at table 4 with a glass of champagne, looking at me like she had known this was coming and had decided to be amused about it. She was not my favorite person. That felt important to establish. My name is Daniel Carr. I was 33, a senior content strategist at a mid-sized marketing agency in Chicago, and for the past 2 years, Sloane Whitfield had been the one person in my professional life I could not simply outwork. She was sharp the way a good argument is sharp, not loud, not cruel, just accurate. Every time I thought I had an angle she hadn't considered, she had already considered it and written a better brief. Our boss, Marcus, had stopped pretending he wasn't comparing us. He had started assigning us the same accounts separately just to see whose pitch landed. It was exhausting. It was also, if I was being honest with myself, the reason I had gotten better at my job. None of that explained why she had invited me to her sister's wedding. Her name was Clara. She was getting married to a man named Owen in a restored barn outside the city with string lights, seasonal flowers, and a seating chart that had apparently been designed by someone with a very specific sense of humor. Sloane had handed me the invitation 3 weeks earlier, standing in the copy room while the machine jammed between us. My family fills 100 seats easy, she said, and Clara wants a full room. You don't have to come. Then she left before I could ask any of the reasonable follow-up questions that come after a work rival invites you to a family wedding. I went because I was curious. That was the honest answer. I went because Sloane Whitfield had never once given me information I didn't have to work for, and a wedding felt like territory where she couldn't edit herself completely. She was wearing dark red, not the color of drama, the color of confidence, a wrap dress that looked effortless in the way that always means someone tried very hard. Her hair was down for the first time I had ever seen. At the office, she kept it pulled back with a pencil or a clip or whatever was available, the way people do when they are communicating that their brain is busy and their appearance is a secondary concern. Down, it changed her face, softened it in a way that made me realize I had only ever seen the professional version. She watched me cross the room toward table 4. You actually came, she said. You actually invited me. She handed me a champagne glass from the passing tray. Clara added the plus ones last minute. I ran out of people I liked. That's the warmest thing you've ever said to me. She smiled, just barely into her glass. Don't push it, Carr. The ceremony was beautiful in the uncomplicated way outdoor weddings manage when the weather cooperates. Clara cried during her vows. Owen looked like a man who had been waiting his whole life to be exactly where he was standing. The kind of sincerity that either embarrasses you or undoes you completely. I noticed Sloane watching her sister with an expression she clearly did not know she was making. Soft, proud, a little tender around the edges. It lasted about 4 seconds before she felt me looking and put her professional face back on. What? She said quietly, not turning her head. Nothing. Your sister seems happy. A pause. She is. Another pause. She deserves it. That was the whole exchange. But it told me more about Sloane Whitfield than 2 years of side-by-side quarterly reviews. Dinner was the harder part. Seated beside someone you have spent 2 years carefully not knowing is a different thing than standing beside them. The table had 6 people, and by the salad course, the other 4 had found each other and drifted into their own conversation, which left Sloane and me with the breadbasket and no professional distance to hide behind. She asked me what I had ordered before I could ask her. Salmon, I said. I ordered the salmon too. I know, I saw you mark it on the card. She looked at me. You pay attention. It's a job requirement. At a wedding, everywhere, something shifted in her expression. Not softness, exactly. More like recalibration. The way she looked at a brief she hadn't finished deciding about yet. Why do you do that? She asked. Do what? Make everything sound like a strategy. I picked up my water glass. Force of habit. You do it too. I do not, Sloane. You introduced yourself to Clara's new mother-in-law with a 3-point summary of how you knew the family. She opened her mouth and closed it. Then she laughed, and it was different from her office laugh, which was polished and brief. This one arrived before she could stop it, low and a little surprised at itself. That is fair, she said. I know. She tore a piece of bread and handed me half without asking. I ate it without commenting. We sat with that for a moment. Can I ask you something honest? She said. You've never asked permission before. I'm trying something new. I turned toward her slightly. Go ahead. She looked at the head table, where Clara and Owen were leaning together mid-law over something nobody else had heard. Do you actually think I'm good at this job? Or do you think you could do it better and you're just being beaten on a technicality? The question deserved a real answer. I gave it one. I think you're the best writer in that office, I said. I think you see the narrative before anyone else in the room. I think I push myself harder because you exist and I hate that, and I'm also grateful for it. Sloane set down her champagne. She looked at me with an expression I had never seen from her before. Not surprised exactly. More like she had been braced for something smaller. You could have led with that 2 years ago, she said. You could have too. A pause, then quieter. Yeah, I could have. The band started after dinner, something slow and predictable that still worked because the room was warm and the lights were low and Clara was dancing with her father in a way that made every guest feel they had witnessed something private. Sloane watched from our table, her shoes off, one foot tucked under her on the chair. I noticed she had a small scar along her collarbone I had never seen before. I noticed she turned her ring around her finger when she was thinking. I noticed that the distance between us at this table was much smaller than the distance between our desks had ever felt. Why me? I asked, somewhere around the third song. What? Out of everyone you could have invited, why me? She looked down at her glass for a moment. Because you're the only person I know who would actually be honest with me in a room full of people who love me. That sentence had a kind of weight to it that I didn't know how to answer quickly, so I didn't. Eventually, Clara appeared at our table, flushed and laughing and still somehow composed in the way only brides manage. She looked at her sister and then at me and then at the single inch of space between us on the bench. So you're Daniel, she said. I am. Sloane talks about you at Sunday dinners. Sloane closed her eyes briefly. Clara. She says you're infuriating, Clara continued, undeterred. She says it in the voice she uses when she means the opposite. I looked at Sloane. Her jaw was set. Her cheeks had gone slightly pink. Clara, she said again, very evenly. I'm going to go find my husband, Clara announced cheerfully. Enjoy the open bar. Then she disappeared. Sloane stared at the table for a moment. Then she picked up her champagne and said, without looking at me, she has always been the worst. She seems great, I said. She is, that's the problem. I watched the side of her face. Infuriating in which voice exactly? She turned to look at me. This close in this light, her expression was entirely unmanaged. No brief to defend, no pitch to protect. Just Sloane, slightly embarrassed, and something else underneath that, something careful. The voice that means I think about you when I should be thinking about work, she said. That voice. I didn't move. Neither did she. The band played something slower. People drifted past us toward the dance floor, and we stayed where we were, as if moving would break something we hadn't named yet. I don't want to lose a good rivalry, I said. Neither do I. A pause. I also don't want to keep pretending the rivalry is the whole story. There are moments in a life that don't announce themselves. No swelling music, no perfect line. This was just Sloane Whitfield in dark red at her sister's wedding, looking at me with a steadiness that asked nothing except honesty. I offered her my hand. She looked at it. Then she took it, her fingers sliding through mine with the quiet certainty of someone who had already thought this through. We danced exactly once. Badly. She told me I had no spatial awareness for a man who worked in visual media. I told her her tempo was a personal attack. We were both right, but we stayed on the floor through the next song anyway. On Monday, she left a coffee on my desk before I arrived. No note. She didn't need one. I knocked on her office door at 10 and said the pitch for the Alcott account was better if we built it together. She looked up from her screen. Took you long enough. I was being strategic. You were being scared. Both, I said. Both is true. She turned her chair to face me and picked up her pencil. Sit down, Carr. Let's build something. Have you ever had someone in your life that you were so focused on competing with, you missed what else was there? Drop your story in the comments. If this one meant something to you, leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.